Good evening, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order, this special board meeting of 8/12/2024. We'll start with the roll call. Kinsey?
Becker,
Here.
McCoy,
Here.
Lyerly,
Here.
Mills,
Here.
Gerlach,
Here.
Crossan,
Here.
Lee.
Here. Right, I'll remember before. We'll start with the first order of business, employment of staff. Someone read the motion.
I move that the resignation of staff as presented be approved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Oh, yeah, you're right.
I move that the employment of staff as presented be approved.
I second that motion.
And is there any discussion on that topic? Hearing none, can we move to vote?
Online voting is now open.
Kinsey, I'm a yes.
Lynn and Koo, are you able to vote?
I didn't get it. I vote yes.
Koo, do you want a voice vote for this one?
Yes. Yes.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay, moving to the next order of business, resignation of staff. Someone read the motion?
I move that the resignation of staff as presented be approved.
I second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, let's move to vote.
Online voting is now open.
Kinsey, I vote yes again.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
So although there are action items for transfer of staff or retirement of staff, there's actually nothing to action. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Sorry. I was waiting. Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. We're adjourned. We're going to immediately move to the working session. So welcome everybody to the 8/12/2024 Board of Education working session. We'll need to take roll again. So Kinsey?
Lee.
Here.
Crossan,
Here.
Gerlach,
Here.
Mills,
Here.
Lyerly,
Here.
McCoy,
Here.
Becker.
Here. All right, so we'll move to open forum. I think there's someone in the audience that would like to speak. We're going to give her a few minutes. How about if your name's on it, bring it up. I'll introduce you and then we can continue to fill it out after the fact. That's okay. Can you pronounce your last name? Lentz. Okay. Okay, Laura, if you approach the podium, is there a microphone that we can use? Or if you want to approach the table? But we have to hear you on the broadcast. Okay, if you could state your name and your address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Andrew, do you want a timer? Set it along for 5 minutes.
Timer, yep.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Can you hear me over? Okay.
Laura, can you hear her?
Yes.
Okay,
Good deal. My name is Laura Lenz. I am the new school psychologist between Dan's and Wilder. I live in Wrightstown. So this is Fenton. Fenton has taught with me for the last 6 years over at Westapier High School. Provided incredible support for our students, both emotionally, behaviorally, just in terms of motivation. He's done absolutely incredible things. Some of the data that I took when I first started with Fenton at Westapier, we had approximately 92% of the students that took the survey felt as though he had a positive impact on the entire building. And quite frankly, I was a special ed teacher at that point, which I'm sure you are all familiar with special education classrooms. They're smaller. Not everybody in the school comes in. But with Fenton, it's different. Students are drawn to him. He knows over 40 different commands. He doesn't go to the bathroom until I tell him to. I'm trying to train my kids the same way. It's not working. But he can provide sensory support for our students on the spectrum. Behavioral support, he can start that healing that environment. So say a student has an emotional episode and there are items all over the room. Fenton can go in and, for instance, pick up a crayon and put it in the bucket and start that healing process. And then eventually, the children involved can also step up into that process as well. Carries papers down the hallway. He knows all sorts of crazy cool tricks. Does not bark, unfortunately, so I will be the only one speaking today. But yeah, I think that, he has been such an integral part of the education of the students at Westapier that I would love to also bring him into the school district and provide the same opportunity for our students here because they deserve it. So you can end my timer if you really want to. Otherwise, I just get long-winded. Thank you so much for your time.
thank you very much. Okay, we're gonna go to the next order of business, which is the sectional education. I apologize for not knowing this in advance. Is this going to be turned over to Brian or Lynn? Okay, Brian?
And we are starting off with conversation with the consolidation of schools update. And I believe David's coming up.
On this one, we'll have Dan and Shayna and Jess join us.
And that's what you said before, and I didn't write it down, so come on up.
We wanted to take some time before the school year kicks off to update the board on the consolidation plans for the 3 schools that will be consolidating this fall. Follow up with a discussion about process and planning for the 26-27 school year.
Good evening, board. We do have a small slideshow because it's wonderful to see it through the pictures. Yeah, one moment. Sure. So I'd like to introduce our team here. Of course, you know the 3 of us as your school leadership directors, Shayna Pochask,
Dan Slowey.
and Jess Melkor. And then just finding out recently that they were coming all the way to the board table, I bring to you our 3 wonderful principals who have supported in our roles of our consolidating schools. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Joanna Wheatman, AP at Red Smith. I was formerly the admin intern at Weequahic. Janae Banks Wilson, currently the principal at Lincoln, was the principal at Tank.
Trisha Smet, principal at Kennedy.
So they were very instrumental in helping us to develop this slideshow, but just didn't know that they were going to get to speak to the photos, all of them. So we're going to give them grace here. So I'll begin to let you know that it took all of us, our theme is together is we are one, and that's truly what it's like. All of our different departments have been working behind the scenes to come together. So we've had in-person meetings at both the closing schools and the schools gaining students and families. And we've had facilities, we've had technology, we've had teaching and learning, school leadership. We've had all different departments coming along to hear from the principals, what do you need? What's the next support that we can provide? And that was really instrumental because you'll learn a lot of things. It's like doing that final walkthrough when you buy a home. You see all those little small things that you didn't maybe see if you weren't physically there. And so we were very fortunate to have that opportunity. We got together every week to do that. And so our slideshow here is going to show you some of those highlights of some of the great things we've done together. So again, as I mentioned, we did the weekly meetings and on-site walkthroughs, as well as monthly meetings with our full leadership team to make sure that everybody knew what was going on and we could problem solve anything that came up.
I'd like to reiterate the Together We Are One. If we go to the next slide, thank you. Just an update on furniture. We really made sure we were strategic. We had a strategy to make sure that the furniture that was available within this district and those funding were prioritized to these buildings to make sure that we could support our students and staff as they're coming back for the 24-25 school year. Very similar, we had instructional resources. We made sure it was a priority that they had everything that they needed to be successful, our staff. And we've had many trainings that were offered to all of our staff throughout the district and wanted to make sure we had a focus here to make sure everyone had everything they needed. We looked at storage. Making sure that working with our principals that we had appropriate storage. As you'll learn, a lot of some of the items for some of our buildings definitely came over to our new buildings, and we'll talk about that. Items at Keller Tank and Weequahic will still be accessible to them in their previous buildings. We want to make sure it wasn't a free for all and anything they didn't take right from the start. We wanted to make sure that they have as they see the needs, as they start the school year, we'll make sure those resources are still available to them before we have opportunities for others in the district that may need them. So we really wanted to prioritize these three buildings and making sure they had what they need to be successful for those students when they walk in on day one. And also for those community members and parents as they come in as well, that they see this is a building that they will be very proud of. So that was those pieces.
All right, so here are some of the amazing updates we made at Kennedy. So we improved some of the branding, which completely transformed the look of our school. So this is our main entrance, the before and after picture. This is just when you walk inside the main entrance, what it looked like before on the left side, and then what it looks like now. There'll be pictures in there once school starts. And this is our office area, so the back wall in our office. So again, this is something that families will see as soon as they enter our building. And then this is an update on the stairs. So on the left are our Leader in Me stairs with the 7 habits. And then on the right are our Kennedy Care stairs with our Kennedy Pledge. All of our classrooms received new fabulous furniture. And then a team from Keller and Kennedy got together and we talked about our student expectations. We wanted to make sure that we were aligned. And so we met and then we used the acronym LEAD because we're a leader in me school, and we revamped all of our posters for students, and then we'll introduce those to both Kennedy and Keller families that are joining us at the beginning of the school year. At Lincoln, we were able to have a new digital sign installed in the front. So we are very excited about that because it does get cold in January and December, changing the sign by hand. We also increased our technology experiences at Lincoln. So in our cafeteria, we have wall-to-wall digital panels. Each classroom and some office spaces for our students with disabilities actually have smart panels or smart boards in every classroom. So we were able to bring some from Tank and purchase a couple new. So we are excited about that as well. We were able to do some slight construction and create additional classroom spaces for our second grade to house the additional staff coming over and students. And similar to Kennedy, each classroom at Lincoln was able to get new furniture for K2 as well as 3-5. So we have some options also for flexible seating in our upper classrooms as well.
All right, and for Red Smith, all of the classroom spaces are ready to go. The Red Smith staff was awesome, though teachers that needed to move because we did a lot of shuffling around, and the maintenance crew, they were awesome, just moving things around as needed. The CLTs did some summer learning together, and I will say too, the Week staff was brought in. Willie and I brought the staff in last week just to do some training with the Raptor ways, now that it's not the Week way anymore, and try to make sure that everybody was on board and we're all together. We did get furniture upgrade, as Dan had mentioned. We did bring quite a bit of furniture from Week. A lot of that furniture then we were putting in those non-general ed classrooms, maybe a special education classroom, possibly the para room. So we tried to make sure that it would fit and work where we needed it. A lot of that furniture that we had at Week was in excellent shape still, just because it was pretty new. So everybody's pretty excited about the new furniture they got. The classrooms also got, the general ed classrooms all got new furniture as well. And of course, we got to bring Henrietta and Cinnamon Toast Crunch over. So the chickens came over, the grounds crew. I was there the day they picked up the coop and moved it, and I didn't think it was coming out, but Hector got it out of there. So it was quite a process, but and the girls went to the hotel for 2 nights, I think it was, before they were able to get the coop ready at Red Smith for them. So they seem very happy. They've had a lot of visitors. A lot of the kids in the community are coming by. There's been a few Week families that I've noticed have been out there to say hi to the chickens. So everybody's quite excited that they're very popular. And then the greenhouse that we're getting, I believe end of October, beginning of November. There's a plan there for it, and we've got the space ready. We're just really excited for that addition.
If I could just add one more thing, one of the transitions is Joanna coming as the admin intern and now being the associate principal at Red Smith is a huge benefit. Those students are walking in, seeing that familiar face and the smiles that they have. It really, I think, has been a great piece of the transition. So that worked out really nicely. So Joanna, thank you for your leadership and being part of the Red Smith staff now.
I think we can say the same for Janae transitioning over to Lincoln with the Tank students.
The last slide here just shows much of the playground from Week came over to Red Smith with the new students coming over, and so we've got that. You can't see in the picture, but the wood chips still need to go down, but it's pretty much, and the cozy domes weren't there in that picture, but that was one thing. Willie and I talked with the students and they really wanted the cozy domes. So those were moved over as well. That was a popular thing.
Am I the only one that doesn't know what cozy domes are?
They're like little igloos. Yeah, they're like little igloos that the kids play inside and it's just fun for them. Yeah.
All right, so 2 weeks from today, we're going to be welcoming our students back. We're very excited. We're going to be ready for them. There's some final touches to complete here, but we are going to absolutely be ready for them. We have for our first week of school for our 3 schools here today, we're going to have extra district staff and community members supporting in the schools. So our principals are identifying some of those areas of the day that they would benefit from some extra hands. So we're getting that all aligned. And then school leaders, of course, will be communicating with families, really real clear expectations for the drop off, pickup, clarity around open house and all those things so that way everyone knows exactly where they're going on day one. So we're incredibly excited and ready to go. That's the fun begins once the kids arrive. That's what we've been working all summer for, waiting for.
Does anyone have any questions? James?
I don't have a question. I want to thank everybody for the effort that was put forth. These were some of the first votes that we took, especially around Weequahic, and they were emotionally charged. And we made commitments to those families that we would transition over as much as possible to the new environment. And I really appreciate being able to see that come to fruition. And make good on our promises. So I appreciate all the hard work, set a high standard for the remainder of the transitions, and I hope they go as smoothly. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Oops, sorry, Brian. And then Kinsey, if you could pull up that other slide deck, I'll go over the high students. The next phase. Please.
Just while we're transitioning, we've just been joined at the board table by a couple members of the Intercity Student Council. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Lydia Robinson from Green Bay East.
Liam Rankin from Green Bay East.
Thank you for being here. And if you have any questions, concerns, or want to participate in the discussion, feel free, please.
All right. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and click for me, Kinsey, please. These are some highlights of the work that's been going on to plan for implementing the consolidation of the most recent schools, including deadlines and mimicking a lot of the work that we've already seen happen and that was just presented to you. Nicolay Sullivan boundary adjustment. The plan is to implement this change for the 25-26 school year. Families can choose to keep current students and incoming siblings at Sullivan until middle school. You'll see that pattern with all of the schools that are consolidating. In other words, we are grandfathering current students so that they can, if they so choose, stay with their peers until they move on to middle school. Nicolay and Sullivan principals will collaborate, such as you saw a little while ago, with their peers for a successful transition for students. And the district protocol for all of these scenarios will mimic, again, what you just saw. District protocols for transportation will be followed. Kinsey? Dan's Martin, very similar. Implementation is scheduled for the 25-26 school year. Again, the grandfathering of current students and their siblings, if they so choose to remain at Dan's, they have the ability to do so. Dan's and Martin principals will collaborate with their peers, and district protocols for transportation will be followed. Kinsey? For the consolidation of Langlade into Doty Elementary, the goal for consolidation is for it to occur with the 26-27 school year. Open enrollment into Langlade will be closed beginning next school year. For this particular consolidation, there had been concern raised by parents about the number of programs in the two schools and what that might look like through consolidation. So we will work closely with the principals and the teachers to determine, is there a possibility for a program to be moved to another school? And I'll keep the board updated on that progress. Langlade and Doty principals will collaborate with their peers, again, to work towards a successful transition. We'll finalize plans to ensure before school and after school programming. They currently have that, but they have it from different providers. So the goal will be to have some collaboration to determine which provider would offer the services or perhaps both. Current Langlade staff will hold true for the Elmore staff and MacArthur staff will receive incentive to stay stipends. If the board will recall, we did the same thing with the Tank, Weequahic, and Keller staff. The incentive to stay stipend is prorated depending upon their FTE at the closing school. And the incentive is for the staff to remain through June of 2026. Current Langlade students and their siblings with boundary change to Webster will be able to stay with their peers at Doty if they so choose until middle school. Webster boundary adjustment would be implemented at the same time that Langlade would consolidate with Doty. District protocols for transportation will be followed. And human resources will work with displaced staff regarding placement for the 26-27 school year. Kinsey? For the consolidation of Elmore into Chapel and Lincoln, the goal is for consolidation to occur the 26-27 school year. I think review of current programs, that might be a typo. But in case it isn't, we'll take a look at the programming to see if all of the programs are a good fit when they consolidate. Chapel and Elmore principals will collaborate with their peers for a successful transition. We will review options for moving the Katherine Johnson Academy of Enriched Virtual Learning School for the 26-27 school year if space is needed at Lincoln Elementary. That's something we had discussed leading up to this point. So we will continue to look at options for that. Open enrollment into Elmore will be closed for the beginning of the 25-26 school year. And such as we've done with the other schools, current Elmore families under intra-district transfer or open enrollment into Elmore will be given first preference if they want to stay with their peers and go to Lincoln or Chapel. Actually, that is a little different from the other ones. Elmore has a large number of intra-district transfer students, so we want to honor them by giving them a choice. Kinsey? Tank students who reside south of Mason Street that had been reassigned to Lincoln will have the opportunity to stay at Lincoln to conclude their elementary experience, or they can transition into Beaumont, which was previously scheduled. Current Elmore staff will receive the incentive to stay stipend, and human resources will work with displaced staff regarding placement for 26-27 school year. And again, district protocols for transportation will be followed. Kinsey? And then finally, for the closure of MacArthur Elementary, the goal is to open our new school in the fall of 26-27. Open enrollment into MacArthur will be closed beginning with the 25-26 school year. Current MacArthur families whose new attendance will be King for the 26-27 school year may utilize the intra-district transfer to attend the new elementary school if there's room. And right now, it looks like we'd be able to accommodate any of the MacArthur families interested in doing so. Current MacArthur staff will receive the incentive to stay stipend. MacArthur, Kennedy, and King principals will collaborate with their peers for a successful transition. Human Resources will work with displaced staff regarding placement for the 26-27 school year. And again, with this one, district protocols for transportation will be followed. Our plan is to share this information with staff and parents and guardians in a memo later this week so that clear information is out there and available to all of them. Brian?
Do any board members have any questions on that? I just want to add, it's good to see the partnerships with the after-school program that we have and the fact that they're community-based with two well-recognized organizations in the area. I think it just kind of goes to show how valuable those partnerships are that we have that we'll be able to figure out, especially with Langlade, to continue those. So, and provides more options for our students. So I'm pleased to see that. Anyone else? Well, I'll speak again then. It's also good to see the human resource part of it, that the policy that we established earlier last year, looking ahead at this possibility will be followed, and that we'll make sure that staff is taking care of at those schools that are changing. So thank you. Moving on to Part B, Head Start Program Guidelines and Operational Procedures Handbook and Policy Council Bylaws. Shayna's coming back up.
Hello again, Shayna Pochask, School Leadership Director, and this year I get to partner with both of our Head Start schools, Jefferson and the Head Start Learning Center. And tonight I'm just giving you a little bit a glimpse of some documents that they share with you. About this time every year, they bring forward the updates to their handbooks and their policies, procedures. So I just want to tell you a little bit about that. You'll see in their list of changes and updates that a lot of it is about clarifying language, making things more, processes more aligned, taking out some redundancies, things were repetition. They also are increasing options for families. So for example, if a family was in a situation where they were declaring homelessness, they have more options now for how they can do that. They also are doing a lot of work to make sure that their school success plan is aligned with the districts and gives them opportunities to reflect in that 100-day plan cycle. And so they have those updates in here as well as a few others that just help match our procedures, such as lesson plans or how we support teachers with educator effectiveness. Any question I can answer?
Does not appear so. Thank you. And now we are moving on to our literacy update, which David Johns will be joining us for.
Good evening, board, student leaders. Appreciate the opportunity this evening to share with the team literacy updates that would be connected with our commitment and our critical priority of equitable instruction. I'll let the team introduce themselves and then we'll get started.
Linda Teskey, Director of Literacy. Tammy Jones, Associate Director of Literacy Interview.
Jess Vanden Heuvel, Associate Director of Assessment and Data.
We're going to organize our updates this evening around really three areas and then engage with you a bit in some open conversation about what you would like to see next when we come back to you in the winter with additional updates in this area. I'm going to begin with some general information about the state assessment results, what we're beginning to learn, and how we will situate those assessment results in the work ahead. Linda will provide an Act 20 update. If you remember the last time we spoke about literacy at the board table, there was a pretty elaborate outline of all of the components of Act 20, and we shared with you an update of where we were in each of those stages. So we'll zoom in on a couple of things that we have some significant updates around. Tammy will provide an overview of the professional learning that's already in place and that will be ongoing over the next couple of years as we work to transform the literacy experience for our students in the district. As it relates to the forward exam, we're excited to have access to some preliminary data that gives us an overview of the progress of our students as measured by the state assessment last spring. As I share with you what that looks like at this point, I want to share with you a little bit of caution. Here's what is different about that state assessment this last year. The state assessment was aligned to new standards for the first time in ELA and mathematics last year. An advantage that we had is that we have been teaching to those standards the whole school year. So it wasn't as if our students sat down to a state assessment in the spring and it was actually testing things that weren't part of the instruction that they received. So there was alignment in there. What it does mean is that the assessment that they took prior to that in the 22-23 school year was not similar to the same standards that they learned. So comparing 2023 to 2024 is challenging. It's not exactly apples to oranges, but it's like apples to apple juice. We have to be careful when we compare the two. Some things to know about the forward exam results as we'll be seeing them in the school report cards is that the performance will be reported across 4 areas of performance. In the past, our students were performance was placed in a scale of below basic to proficient to advanced. The state has taken a more developmental and asset-based approach in naming these performance areas. So what we'll see in the 2023-24 results will be students in the emerging, developing, meeting, and advanced categories. Meeting and advanced, if students score in the area that's designated meeting or advanced, is considered grade level learning. So just keep that in mind in terms of those 2 categories. I shared with you the cautions when interpreting the scores. There's different scale scoring that's been used. I've taken a look at the data on a very detailed level, and it's clear to me that we wouldn't necessarily lay out, this is how we did last year, this is how we did the year before, and we either celebrate or wonder why we didn't make the progress we did. But I do want to share some trends with you that create a really strong foundation for the work ahead, knowing that the school report cards will be coming up soon. We know that when our students are in 4 performance groups, that the students in the lowest performance groups are the ones that we're most concerned about making sure that they get quality instruction, making sure that they get quality interventions, and that we close that gap as soon as possible. In the new data from our 23-24 performance, we certainly have gaps that still exist. And short of a year ago, we shared with you our district goals for student performance that named the student groups that were performing at the lowest level, and we had some accelerated goals set for those student groups. We continue to have those gaps as it's revealed through this new data. What I see as quite promising is that we are reducing the number of students on the assessment that are scoring in the lowest performance level, which would be the emerging level in this performance. In the 23-24 forward exams, we have 12.2% less students in the lowest performance level, which means we have moved those students out of the lowest level and distributed them into the higher levels of performance. That's in grades 3 through 5. In grades 6 through 8, we have movement of 13.7% of our students out of that lowest performance level and into the higher performance levels. And then that pans out with different numbers configured across those. We'll soon be able to look at that data and sort it by student group. We'll be able to sort it by grade level. All of this happens when the data moves into WISE Dash, which we're expecting by the end of the month. That's what I have for you by way of updates of our progress right now. Two major takeaways for me and my leadership is that our achievement gaps persist and are evidenced in this new data, regardless of whether it's a new test format or not. And that we are showing that more and more of our students are in that developing and meeting category than they would have been in last year's 4 performance bands.
Does anyone have any questions?
So in this change of terminology, was there a change or a shift in the breadth of the scoring patterns? And so could you possibly attribute some of that lessening of percentage to the change in these in the new wording, or did we just change the words to it?
Yeah, that's a great observation. And those, I guess I would call them cut scores that would delineate those 4 performance groups have not yet been released. And so that's where a bit of my reluctance comes from wanting to really know what we're comparing against. Are we comparing to like a linear mathematical quartile ranges? Are we comparing it to something different? We don't have that information yet. That's kind of a missing piece right now for us to really be able to internalize these results.
Anyone else? No? All right.
Okay. Act 20 updates. So recently, mid-July, DPI announced that the statewide screener for literacy in K3 will be Ames Web Plus. That's going to give us some screening data. We are contemplating extending it to administration for grades 4 or 5, knowing that we have those behind too, but we're kind of thinking about keeping K3, get that down and going, and then think about how we could get more information on grades 4 or 5. They also published a list of recommended diagnostic assessments. We're currently reviewing those options. There's no choice made yet, but Jess Vanden Heuvel has been researching those assessments, and we're deciding which one would work best for Green Bay Area Public Schools. The 4K Fundamental Skills Screening Assessment is also Ames Web Plus. The first administration for 4K is not until spring 2025. And the first administration for the screener for grades K3 is mid-year to allow for adequate training because they came out very late with giving us this screening data. So we have a lot to learn about it yet. CESA is going to start putting in some informational pieces for us to understand what DPI is coming from and how these will be utilized across the state. And that's the updates for right now. On that updated document that David referred to in the beginning that you had seen before is on the bottom there. That just goes through everything that we have for Act 20 that we have currently in place or ongoing. And Tammy will give some of the updates on what is ongoing that we brought to you earlier and now the professional learning is happening. Any questions for me right now? Or Jess?
Andrew?
Thank you. What differences will Ames Web Plus make in the day-to-day of our people who work most closely with kids, classroom teachers, interventionists, et cetera?
Components of the screener are really measuring items that we've been keeping track of and monitoring all along. They're really foundational literacy components, phonetic and phonemic awareness. So they'll continue to inform teachers on their specific instruction with students and where to maybe dive in a little bit more closely. And eventually when we do find a specific diagnostic to pair with those assessments as well, we'll focus even further in on what specific student goals we'll have.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. All right.
There we are. Professional learning, summer 2024. Oh, what a time we had. Thank you for this amazing opportunity to share literacy update on the exciting professional learning that educators and administrators have participated in thus far with HMH, Lexia Core 5, Power Up, and lastly, Letters. To start with HMH, ELA Resources K through 8, DOB was filled with chatter of eagerness and enthusiasm for the last couple of months as educators and administrators participated in professional learning led by our HMH professional learning facilitators. Educators were able to take a deeper dive into the resources, digital and hard copy, provided while collaborating and planning for the school year. There were multiple sessions offered from June until August, as administrators had choice of professional learning days for staff to attend. Our back to school professional learning days, literacy coaches will facilitate a review and planning times. Thank you, board, for approving school calendar to have professional learning embedded to support teachers' professional growth. Lastly, on this slide, while attending professional learning and actively engaged, we were able to walk around and listen to what educators had to say. They shared positive feedback of the curriculum, that it was easily accessible, user-friendly, differentiation was provided, there's diversity included, and social and emotional learning lessons are included. There were so many different positive feedbacks within the discussions that we wanted to show you visuals of what the professional learning with HMH. So travel with us so you have a glimpse of professional learning. Here is collaboration of HMH. They're digging deeper into the curriculum. Next slide, please. A picture's worth 1,000 words. Look at the smiles. They're planning. All of our teachers were actively engaged in looking through the hard copies as well as digital assets of HMH curriculum. Exploring faces of wonderment, growth mindsets of our educators. Learning and smiling, that's what it's all about. Which brings us to Lexia Core 5 and Power Up, professional learning. Lexia Core 5 and Power Up is built on the science of reading and research proven programs that accelerates the development of literacy skills for students of all abilities, closing literacy gaps and shifting from learning to read to reading to learn. Educators and administrators participated in professional learning, which continues. We've also had our trial schools that attended some of these trainings, and they had Core 5 and Power Up in their schools, and we showed progress of the students that were enrolled in these programs. Multiple scheduled sessions are offered, virtual training as well as in-person training, easy access to a facilitator for additional support if and when needed for Core 5 and Power Up. We had 2 groups that was completely trained, which were our elementary literacy interventionists was completed Core 5 training, and our secondary literacy interventionists completed Power Up training to assist in teachers within the schools as well as administrators. Both provides professional learning to support small group instruction, assessment data, student skills deficits and growth, which saves time for planning for teachers. There's a dashboard that holds all data for teachers to retrieve and monitor. Next slide, please. Equitable instruction, differentiated learning in Core 5 and Power Up. Inclusion within the universal classroom. Lexia Core 5 and Power Up marries very well with HMH curriculum. It includes the skill sets to close gaps through K5, which is Lexia Core 5, and grade 6, which is Power Up. Because grade 6 has that double block, they will be able to have Power Up within the push-in model. 4K Elementary have equitable access through co-serving. Co-serve, which is general education and specialty teachers, work together to meet the unique learning of students. Lesson planning, delivering grade level instruction, assessing student progress and monitoring. All data is stored, housed in Lexia, which saves time, as I already said, for teachers, specialty teachers, special education teachers, pardon me, see the same student data, good for planning purposes for all, which is inclusion. Lexia Core 5 and Power Up, equitable instruction, differentiating learning. We have unlimited Core 5 licenses purchased for K5. Power Up, 545 licenses purchased for our middle school, 6th grade. Power Up with 6th grade students within that double block. Next, I will speak to letters for administration. Act 20 approves letters, as letters helps teachers master the content and principles of effective language and literacy instructions. Its content extends across the 5 essential components of reading, plus oral language, spelling, and writing. Principals of elementary students started the professional learning in letters for administrators. Letters for administrators. There are multiple sessions offered. Thank you, board, for approving the calendar for 2 years for professional learning that covers Build to Practice, as HMH shows how both are aligned. There's ongoing professional learning will continue through the year with letters. Lastly, we have letters 3E for educators. There are 600 educator online learning licenses purchased. Literacy coaches completed Trainer of Trainer professional learning, which instructs teachers in what literacy skills need to be taught, why, and how to plan to teach them. Building administrators have scheduled embedded professional learning for staff starting in October. There's a scope and sequence reflects makeup sessions each month to cover those who missed the professional learning through October. Thank you for your time and attention. Are there any questions for our ELA team?
Are these apps for the students or for the teachers?
Pardon me?
Are the apps that, like all the apps that you discussed, are they for the teachers or are they for the students? Okay.
There's areas where teachers will go in and monitor students' data. Oh, I'm sorry. They're for both. Where teachers on into all of the apps and they can see the students' data as students are working within those Lexia Core 5 and Power Up.
And are the success rate for the students good, and are the students like liking the apps that they're using?
Students are liking it. We're having I forget when you push, I go off. Students are responding very well to Core 5 and Lexia Power Up. They are giving feedback. We actually took a student survey of those students who were participating in Core 5 and Power Up, and they stated that they like the independent work. They like that they can watch the videos if they needed more instructions. Then actually instructions come in other languages for those students to hear in their home languages. So we have positive feedback and we see growth. It was trialed in some schools last school year, and we saw that progress of students who came in at that elementary basic level move up to intermediate, and then from immediate to advanced.
Lynn?
Can you just give us an idea of approximately how many students were in the trial and what grades were involved?
Let's see, we had trials at Sullivan, Howe, and Tank. So it was all students K-5. Yes, and then Washington had a trial at grade 6. Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, you had presented on the results of that probably 6 months ago with it, and pretty strong numbers with it, so.
Yeah, this was also the opportunity for teachers who were using it to express to you the enthusiasm and the energy for the students, and then also the early returns. Again, not comparing 2 years of test results that aren't meant to be compared, but just looking at the rate of growth in last year's results and then singling out the schools that did that test of Power Up and Core 5. The rates of advancement of students in those schools exceeded our district average. So it is telling a story of putting a focus on individualized needs with reading. You asked a question about student interest. Students are able to read about topics that interest them as well. There's, it's very much like a lot of things. It feeds off of the last thing you did and gives you new information and new things based on that. So promising early.
James and then Andrew.
So just remind me the schedule of events. So we'll start the letters program and this curriculum at all schools in the fall. Is that a correct statement?
Correct. HMH will start, all the universal resources, ELA resources will start in the fall. And then the letters training will follow like a month after in October, gets staff going with HMH, and then they'll start the first session of letters training.
The students will start using the curriculum when?
Fall.
Fall.
Yeah.
And then you have the screener, the first administration of the screener is when?
Winter.
Winter. So that will act as kind of an early assessment of the efficacy of this new curriculum, right?
That's correct. And in future years, there'll be 3 times throughout
Gotcha.
the year that we do that.
Look forward to seeing the results of the first screening.
Andrew?
So a similar question with these computer-based programs, how much time will be spent on those per student, and how will whenever you're adding time to something, you're subtracting time from something else. So what are we trading off to use this this computer-based learning more?
Right now, for the universal, it's scheduled into the independent time that's already there. So the independent time, the student would go on, they do independent reading or they do centers. And during this time, the one of them would be working on the computer-based programming. It's about 60 minutes probably for the whole week. So it's based on how adaptable the program was for each student. So it adapts to the student's needs. So if you're lower, you get a little bit more time on, but it's not a significant amount of time throughout the week. Special ed is going to is going to do that co-serve model and utilize Core 5 as well, because we know that the more that all kids stay in the universal and get the universal instruction and have it aligned to what their classroom teachers are doing, that will support the growth of our students. So we have a comprehensive piece of work going. I think school leadership talked about how the collaboration is working between teaching and learning, our pupils, student services, and school leadership. So trying to make it all cohesive for the student within the classroom.
Follow up.
Yeah, follow up. So more specifically then, what are some of the things that we're going to be doing? Like in lay language, what are we going to have a little bit less of to accommodate this into the schedule?
It's really within the workshop with this model where you're you have all your components in, so you're going to have the basic components of HMH. And then what they do is they have time for them to consolidate that learning. When that consolidated learning is at that independent time. So maybe independent reading could be something, or one of the centers places that could be. HMH is also more skill-based than our last programming. So that skill-based is going to be the gaps that our Core 5 and Power Up will start to close, is in that skill-based learning. So although HMH gives those types of resources as well, if you go to Core 5, it's a scope and sequence where the teacher doesn't have to plan as well, and it adapts to each of the students. And with so much differentiating happening within the schools, this does that for the teacher. Otherwise, they'd be planning with the HMH resources. So that's the trade-off. Less HMH planning with the teacher, but they would have the Core 5 Core 5 learning. And then the Core 5 pushes out lesson plans to the teacher if the student isn't moving at an adequate rate. So it adapts to the student, tutors, but if the student starts to struggle more than a couple times with the tutoring, it flags the teacher, and the teacher takes the resource and gives the professional learning. So instead of the HMH resource, it's going to, which is parallel, it's going to be the Core 5, which is already adapted for the teacher to utilize based on the student needs. So it's less planning and more targeted.
Go ahead.
Yeah, what's HMH?
That's the universal resource. The Into Reading is our Houghton Mifflin Harcourt universal resource.
Those are the K-8 instructional materials that the board adopted in the spring for use this fall. Your question is a good one, Mr. Becker, and it does remind me that we might want to even just share a visual, because so much is shifting in addition to just the inclusion of Power Up and Core 5, that I think it might benefit the board to just see a visual of what the literacy block looks like now and what it used to look like. And then I think the whole, what are we doing more of and what are we doing less of, will become more clear. So I look forward to being able to share that with you the next time we give you a literacy update.
Go ahead.
Is this something for just elementary and middle school students so that they're prepared for high school, or are you guys gonna bring this into the high school as well?
Lexia Power Up is for, Core 5 is for elementary, and Power Up is for middle and high school. So our high school teachers and interventionists will have access for 9th, 10th, for 9th and 10th grade.
I have a question. One of the things I've brought up many times is we have students that move from within the district and also leave the district and come back. With the students starting on this earlier, students that were at Washington and the other schools that piloted it, that information will stay within the district, right? So if a student transfers from Washington, if they participate in Washington, transfer to Edison, that'll stay with them. Do we know of any other districts around here that are using the same program, that if we have a student leave, that information will follow? Or students coming in, will we have that information for them?
I don't know of any of the surrounding areas. Madison is utilizing it, but not something in the smaller schools around here.
If the student leaves the district and comes back, though, that information will stay with them and we'll be able to recalibrate where they are on that within our program then.
We will archive the students' data once they leave the district, and then when they return or re-enroll, we can bring the data back up.
These instruments are so sophisticated that within about 20 minutes, we could recalibrate a student who's been away from us. Go ahead, Rick.
How are we going to know along the way whether or not there is progress, improvement in the outcome? I mean, student able to read? Are there, what are the metrics that will give us indicators along the way? I'm not talking about toward the end, but along the way, that there is progress, positive progress being made.
I'll get started on that, and Jess may want to hop in as well in terms of the balanced assessment framework. Um, The, the universal screener that we talked about, the one that's going to happen 3 times a year is simply going to answer the question, is the student reading on grade level or not? I've heard other people describe it, and I appreciate it as the check engine light on your car. You can keep driving with it on, kind of at your own peril, but you don't actually know what's wrong. You just know that 40% of students aren't reading on grade level. Now, we get that result for each individual student. That's not just a big, massive number. We can drill into each student. Act 20 outlines what happens next, and that is we make use of the diagnostic assessment. So that's why we talked about the 2 different assessments, because once we find out a student's not reading on grade level, we now need to look into why did that check engine light go on for that student. That's when we start to drill into more specific needs for the students that through instruction can be addressed. And programs like Power Up or Core 5 can give the student specific practice in that area. At the same time, their teacher is actually teaching the skills that are associated with that. That's just kind of a high level connect the dots of all these assessment tools. But 3 times a year, we'll be able to answer that question, which students are reading on grade level and which ones are not. And then after each of those, we'll be able to drill in or diagnose where they are so that teachers can respond with instruction.
So the percentage of kids right now who aren't at grade level is somewhere around 60%, right? Or is it 40? Do I have it backwards here?
We're eager to learn that new number, but yes, we're probably, sorry. We are probably in that range of between 40 to 60%, depending on what grade level.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking is because if there's that large of a number, there's going to be a large amount of intervention that will take a lot of time to get after that. So have we accounted for that volume of time for that number of students who right now we feel pretty confident it's sitting between 40 and 60%?
You probably heard Linda use the word universal a few times in talking about this. Because that number is what it is right now, we will make use of those intervention tools with all students in the classroom. Those intervention tools also allow students who are reading on grade level to stretch and extend their skills beyond grade level as well. But the situation right now calls us to use that with all students. We will reach a point where through the general instruction that's happening in the classroom and this ripple effect of one grade after another having a positive impact on literacy rates, where we're not using it as widespread as we will be, but we will start with that widespread. Go ahead.
Since they're gonna be taking the reading test, 3 times a year, is that gonna take over for the forward exam reading test?
So for K through 2, this is their state assessment, that screener, and then diagnostic is needed if they're scoring below 25th percentile. And for grade 3, they do have an overlap. This does not replace the forward.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Brian. So we'll move on and I'll transition the role of chair over to Mr. Crossan for the operations agenda items.
Thank you. We have 3 agenda items tonight under operations. The first one will be the 2023-24 food service overview. This will be an update on the food service program from last year, along with facilities upgrades or updates from Aldo and Kennedy. If Lynette Kiano will come to the board table.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lynette Kino, and I am the Director of the Food Service Operation here in Green Bay. Oh, thank you, Kinsey. All right. I'm very happy to be here tonight and to showcase your food service department. I can honestly say I'm very proud of the team that we have within our food service department, and I'm going to show you some of the great things that we do. Is it the middle button? Ta-da. All right, perfect. All right, so we have more than 18,000 students within our district. And we serve in those sites. We are the fourth largest public school district in the state of Wisconsin. One thing that we can be very proud of is our food service department is self-operated. That means that we operate it under Green Bay Area Public Schools. We do not lose that identity. We operate year-round with a robust summer feeding program. I know a couple of you board members have been on a truck and have seen us out there actually serving our students. So I thank you for that. I do have some averages here. This is during our school year. For breakfast participation, on an average, we feed 5,800 meals a day. For lunch, we feed 10,214 meals. For our dinner program, we feed 1,000. And for our snack, we feed 900 a day. And what I would like to highlight regarding the meals that we serve is that we have students that come in that are hungry. And we have parents that are using our programs, which we absolutely love. We don't turn down a student because they don't have funds in their account. That is something that we can honestly say we are very proud of. And we work with families. We put them on a payment plan, or I work with the principals. What can we do to get a free and reduced application filled out? For our dinner program, as you talked earlier with someone else who was up here regarding our after-school sponsors, actually some of our schools sponsor themselves for after-school dinner, which is amazing. That is not something that a principal needs to take on, but they do with their staff. So we are actually adding 2 more this school year. We are adding Martin Elementary School and we are adding Jackson Elementary School, that the principals have asked us to do that. At Kennedy, we are actually, I apologize, one more. Kennedy, we are adding on because we had a dinner program at Keller last school year, and that was something the parents really, really wanted. So absolutely, we are also doing the dinner program at Kennedy. So next year when I'm here, I can see those meals be higher than what they are right now. For our summer meals, I do have some average daily participation right there. And this is through July. So you can see that breakfast is 1,100 and lunch 1,725. Our total reimbursements that we are bringing in is over 306,000, and that was just through July. We have a robust feeding program at our parks, which is wonderful. We have a great partnership with Park and Rec Department here. All right, so I am going to highlight a little bit of our central kitchen. Again, not all facilities have a Green Bay central kitchen, or yes, a Green Bay, listen to me, a central kitchen. So we have a commissary, and we're very excited about it. Last year, we did put in a whole new vending line. The line that you see the ladies standing around right now, that's brand new. We have another one. And the reason, I'm going to tell you the reason why behind all of this is when our machine went down 2 years ago, we were at that commissary until 9:30 at night, making sure we had all of the meals packed up for our children in our schools, ready to go out the next morning. The hot packs and cold packs. Just because our machine went down doesn't mean we just stop and those kids aren't going to get fed. And we got them fed. So here you can see the hot packs and produce for the 27 elementary schools, and also we feed at our 2 Head Start sites. With our breakfast meals and lunch, we have those averages right here that we are feeding. And for that scene right now, we also received a grant that helped us purchase that. That piece of machinery you see is over $300,000. So now we have two, and we're very, very proud of that. All right. Also, I want to highlight our child and adult care program. Our third meal of the day to a student. This is our third meal, I apologize, meal to our students, meal and snack. The program is funded by USDA. And also, we're very proud to have this because it is addressing our growing concerns for food insecurity amongst our students. The after school program, the at-risk program, offers after-school enrichment activities and may claim one meal and or one snack. So, which is very nice for our students. At a lot of our high school students, they will go, they'll grab their meal, they'll have their snack, and then they're off to work. And I remember when I was meeting, actually with my niece, and she was in show choir at Preble High School. And she shared with me, she's like, Aunt Nettie, why don't we serve dinner at Preble at school? So many students leave and I have show choir and then I have to go to work. I'm like, oh my goodness, good question. So many wonderful ideas come from our kids in our schools, and now they're taking part of it. And this was just a little conversation we were having at my sister and brother-in-law's home. So I love meeting with kids. I love talking with the students that we have within our district. And you're going to hear a little bit about that in just a moment. But what a day, right? Didn't we have a great day? Mm-hmm. So this welcome back celebration, it's amazing the hours and everything that everyone puts in to make this happen. So we took some pictures, want to showcase a little bit here that we have. I'm going to say every single person within this district touched upon this event that we had. I had so many people coming up and asking, what does your department need? What do you need? What can we help you with? I mean, I had school board members, a couple of you came up. Thank you. We had our interim superintendent in the middle picture bottom. She relieved one of the managers so she could go get her break. So she was making sure that the students were going through with a reimbursable meal. And I like to thank you for that. But also we had other members that are sitting over aside. Can we help so your staff can get a break? So it was just, again, go back to together we are one. We are, and this day it showed that. The very last picture that I took of the day is the bottom right, where we had families literally sitting on the ground and they were eating together as they are sitting at a table. Doesn't matter where you sit to have dinner or have a meal. They're just sitting together, and it was just fabulous. There was times you couldn't see the end of the line. It was pretty awesome. Okay, perfect. All right, so investment to the students. I want to showcase some of the highlights that we are doing within our schools. Now, this is Nicolay. This is brand new at Nicolay. A lot of our schools looked institutional. We needed to change that. We need our students to come in and think that they're a cool school. And this is what they're going to see when they walk into their cafeteria. This is brand new. Students have not seen this yet. So I just wanted to highlight this that we have done at Nicolay. Here, what you will see at Howe Elementary School, this is new at Howe. We have some signage up. We, food service did purchase brand new tables for them. They have their school logos on the tables. The other sign on the right where it says use your inside voice, I actually met with the principal, who, she's not with us, right, with us. She did, leave our district, but she's still within Green Bay. She was at Fort Howard, and we were just having a little conversation inside the cafeteria when I was visiting the school. And she's like, do you think we could put something together that we could communicate the kids that use your inside voice? We don't need to be loud. Keep your hands to yourself. Because we know all kids like to touch everything, right? So we put this together. And again, this was a collaboration between myself and our principal. And we were just talking about things within a cafeteria. And now all of our elementary schools have these in at the beginning of our serving lines. And they are paid for by the food service department. Okay, I want to highlight a little our elementary schools of what they look like if they don't have a hot counters, stations, or cold bars. But we still want them to look like they are coming through a cafeteria line. So as you can see, we have salad stations with fruit and vegetables. Some of them are prepackaged and some of them are not. We mainly do prepackaged salads for our elementary schools at the beginning of the school year, just to take some of the stress off of the principals and all of the employees that are working within the cafeteria. We also have our mobile cow coolers for our milk. And we also like to show a retail serving. We don't want to put things out in really cardboard boxes. We want to have nice serving nice serving baskets and nice baskets for utensils and our other condiments that we have available. So what is Fund 50? All revenue and expenses for the food service department fall underneath Fund 50. Fund 50 needs to be a self-funded account to support the food service program. Now, I can honestly say that we have been very fortunate within our food service department the past 8 years. We have seen a growth within our program, and we have seen how the changes that we have done within our food service program, that each year we are self-funded. And with being self-funded, we are able to turn that money into investment for the students, as some of the pictures you have just seen. You know, at one time, I was asked, why don't you do a universal free, go CEP district-wide food service program? I'm going to share with you that if we would do that, we would lose $1.8 million in 1 year. So what we continue to do is we continue to do our CEP schools, our community eligibility provision that is census data driven by area eligibility. And we keep adding on more schools. So we are 100% federally funded by free meals. For all meals, we get free reimbursement. And we are not losing money. We are still waiting from DPI to see if we can still add on one more school this school year. And we're emailing them every day. I don't know what's taking them so long, but I'm emailing them every single day. So more to come on that. Although renovation. I'm going to go back to the beginning of my presentation where I talked about love talking with students and making things happen. This is how this happened. I was asked to come and talk to a group of students at Aldo, their student council, and they asked for more menu items, more menu ideas. We could only give them so much. Our facility that we had there, we couldn't do what they wanted and what they actually needed. So we made it happen. This would not happen if we were not a profitable food service program. This is 100% funded by Fund 50, the food service department. And I thank you for voting yes to allow those monies being spent out of Fund 50 to put back into the school. We are so proud of this. I had a student stop me, who's on the student council at our district welcome back celebration. And she said she is so excited to see her cafeteria. She's like, I'm more excited for that than, I hate to say this, but she said the playground. But that's okay. The playground looks great, but I'm really proud of this right here. But this did not happen if it wasn't for the students. They made the initiative. They wanted more. We heard them as a district and we made it happen. So all these pictures that I'm showing you here, you see a brand new air screen cooler that is being put in. You're seeing at the bottom, that's inside the kitchen. A dishwasher is going in there. A 3-compartment sink is going in there. We didn't have a dishwasher. We didn't even have a 3-compartment sink. In the middle picture, that's all the equipment that has been delivered there. And on Wednesday, we have going through a punch list, and then 11 o'clock, we are going through with the equipment company and making sure everything is working and operating properly. On the bottom picture where they're doing the floor, we did move forward and we did the whole floor, the transium floor. It sparkles. I cannot wait for all of you to see it. So at our secondary schools, we do have a conventional system there. We get deliveries from our prime vendor. We pan, we cook, and we serve our students. At our secondary schools, combined, we do about 1,600 breakfasts, lunches, 4,800, and 500 dinners. Now, what we do have to realize is we do have open campus. So some of the students you can leave. We do try very hard to have what the students want. With our lunch entrees, you can see some examples there. We do have our taco station. We do have made to order sub bars. We have our hot entree line, our pizza line. We now have a contract with a local vendor that actually we serve at all of our schools, and we are also having that implemented in our K-8 schools also starting this school year. And we did have them serving, or we actually had their pizzas at our welcome back celebration also. All of our salad bars, we do have fresh salad bars out at our schools. I do have a sample picture there for you to see. And we do have the healthy a la carte options that we need to meet all smart snack standards. And those smart snack standards are given to us by the USDA. I wanted to put this out here, Nutri-Slice. This is something that we have. We've had that now for 8 years. This is a program where it's live. What is nice about this program is our school nurses use it. Our students use it, parents use it. And what's nice is it's a mobile app. You can have it on your phone. At our schools, we have the QR codes where the students can just go ahead and scan. And then it can pop up on their phone. They can pick their school and see what they're going to have for lunch. The parents can also see what's happening. On the side, it works very well with our school nurses because of our students who have a strict diet. If they have to watch what their intake is, if it's because of all of the different IEPs that we have out there for our students, that they're able to know if it's insulin or any other meds that they have. We here in our district, we do the offer versus serve reimbursable meal. And so here are some examples, and what that actually means is we have to serve 5 items during lunch. The students only have to take 3, but out of the 3, they have to have a half a cup fruit or vegetable. How many times have you heard that as a student coming through the line, right? We have to educate the students every day that it's not a reimbursable meal unless they have a half a cup of fruit or vegetable. And those are rules by USDA. And we just have to make sure that we are implementing them. All right, I want to give you a little sneak peek at some of our secondary schools. At the bottom left, you can see Washington Middle School. It looks retail, doesn't it? And I will tell you, when we really started implementing the changes at our schools and making them look retail, the students noticed. We serve hydroponic lettuce in our schools. Work very close with our high school eggs, and food service department, we will pay for the pods. We will pay for the fertilizers so they can grow them within their classrooms and they come out into the cafeterias. And we will help transport them around the district. And this is just a non-discrimination statement I have to post at the end of my presentation. So are there any questions or anything that you have, Rick? I see, no?
Oh, I'll save mine for last. Go ahead, Brian.
I have a bunch, so I'll just go one really quick. I had the opportunity to travel along with the summer lunch program, and I've worked in schools for a long time, so I know the importance of food service workers with the connections they make with students compared to teachers and other staff members that are in there. That connection is really tight. And it was awesome to see Kathy and Jordan or Jake. When I was able to go with them on the south routes to see the connection that they knew with the families that were participating at each location. And they were accurate on predicting it. And we went to McAuliffe and they said, well, this family will be there. And if they're not there, they know their customers. And that makes such a positive impact for our community that we have family members that are seeing this and come on a regular basis, and the students are polite and the families are polite. And this isn't only a connection with the parkies at the city parks. We were at the library, the beautiful East Library. If you haven't seen it, it's a wonderful building. And the 7 or 10 families that were there, and the connection the librarians had with the district and the program being offered there. I saw it at the Kroc Center for the summer program, where we had probably 110 students coming through, and they knew the students and they knew them well. And I think that's just a clear indication of the value of your program, the department that you're running, the pride that your employees take within their department, but also that connection that we make with the community. And kids are getting fed, and that shouldn't be anything to debate or anything else. And I just applaud you for how your department does this on a consistent basis. And it's noticed from the summer programs all the way up. My daughter gave you a really good compliment. She's a student at East. She said, I think I'm going to get hot lunch this year. And I said, that's fantastic, because like I said, I've been in schools for a long time. So to see it. So I just want to compliment you on the department and how well and how valuable you are to our area. So I'll come back once the other 17 questions get.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I have a series of questions about cost and payment, because I want to check on some of the things I've been reading, not about the Green Bay Public Schools, but about the school lunch program in the country and USDA, et cetera. So on one of your slides, you had 50%, and you said, we can't do this unless 50% of the students qualify for reduced or free or reduced price meals. And I think it was the dinner snack thing. So if that percentage of students qualify, can all of the students in that school have free dinner or snack?
Yes.
Okay, then is it accurate to say that if 40% of the school students in a school qualify, it becomes a CEP school and all the students get a free meal?
No, no. What they have done, USDA, they have lowered it to 63%. And what I will tell you with 63%, if we were to run CEP district-wide, the food service department would lose $1.8 million. I have to keep track of that. And the reason why I have to, because there was one time I was sitting right where I'm sitting right now, and I was asked that question, and I didn't have that answer. And last year, there was a district that was out there discussing CEP district-wide, and I received a call on it, and I had that answer. Because I don't want to not have that answer for our district. And that is something that I could give you an example. So this school year, I know we do have the chief financial officer here, Angie Robley, and her and I, we just talked, the food service program this school year, if I'm correct, made over $700,000. Now, if we would have been CEP district-wide, although would not have happened, new trucks would not have been ordered. Food service purchases all new trucks for the district. Walk-in coolers would not have been put in our schools. And the district would have had to pull over $300,000 out of Fund 10. So with that being said, I need to make sure, as a director here in Green Bay, that I am being fiscally responsible for the food service program.
Would you please define CEP?
Community eligibility provision.
So is a CEP school a school where all the children eat free?
Yes, that is correct.
And where does the money come from? The $700,000, where does that money come from?
The $700,000, the program is all Fund 50, which is the food service program. That is all revenue that after all of our expenses have been paid, at the end is what is left over at the end of the school year. That is meals, all of meals for reimbursements of meals that paid and reduced families have paid à la carte. We have a very high à la carte revenue that comes in. That's above and beyond reimbursable meals.
So I just want to be clear that you get a reimbursement from USDA, right? But there are families in our district who do pay for their children's meals. That's the account you referred to when you said, if they're hungry, we're going to feed them, even if they don't have money in their account. But there are families that do pay for their children's meals, correct?
That is a correct statement. And the families, right now, our district, each year, we've been going a 10-cent increase on our meals. There is a state average that we need to have for our meals. So with taking a 10-cent increase every single school year, we're not falling too low in that threshold, because our average of our meals that we are serving right now, our average is $3.40, our average cost of a meal. If we look what DPI says that our meal should be at, we should be over $4 a student for a paid meal. But with us continually doing what we are doing and doing that 10-cent increase that we need to do, because we are not at that $4 and we're not going to fall behind, we are in a good financial situation. Welcome.
Any other questions? Andrew?
Thank you. Just for those who might not be aware, could you Could you talk just very briefly about how people might see a product, a commercial packaged product or a vendor, a commercial vendor that might not automatically scream healthy food item to people, but in fact, they might be seeing something with a name that they know, but school versions are different. Could you just give us like a real brief overview of how that works?
Thank you for that question. I appreciate that. I'm going to use Pop-Tarts for an example. All of our Pop-Tarts that we serve are 100% whole grain. The ones that people purchase at home, the consumers that go in a grocery store, they're white flour. There's no whole grain. Everything that we serve within our food service department is whole grain. Even our vendor that we have with our pizza, that was one of the stipulations they had to follow. They had to make sure that they were able to follow the USDA regulations, and they had to provide their recipes, and we had to make sure that they were correct.
Yeah, once upon a time, I made that recipe for school and delivered it to schools that I was actually on the board of with a brief overlap of that time. So, and there was extra sauce and something different with crust to make it meet the school guidelines.
Yes, and also, for instance, the cheese also, because it has to be low-fat cheese, it cannot just be a 50-50 blend.
Anyone else? James?
Yeah, I have a statement and then a question for you. First, I learned something new tonight because I knew that your program paid for itself. I did not realize that you also funded some capital projects. So seeing the additional line in the cafeteria at Aldo was surprising to me, and I appreciate that ability to fund those capital projects. Because I actually thought the cafeteria, I was under the assumption it was referendum funds. So shame on me. But then you mentioned the hydroponic lettuce, and I saw an article in a national news outlet around the Ashwaubenon district also having a hydroponics program. The scope of our program here at Green Bay, how many meals of fresh produce do you think those programs provide?
For the hydroponics?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. We will get, I just received an email, like we'll get 30 pounds, we just received 2 weeks ago, 30 pounds of fresh produce for our summer feeding program. Because they're making it even during the summer, they're not making it, they're growing it. And during the school year, when they're all up and going, they will serve 3 days of when they're growing it. It'll come into our schools, and we have it picked up from our drivers, and they'll dispatch it out to our schools.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Mr. Lee?
Thank you. First of all, I want to, congratulate you for running a very successful program, because I mean, there's a lot of key aspect to this entire thing, and I know that we always have very serious, intense discussion. Not to say that your program's not, but it put a smile on my face because every time you say retail like, and I'm jealous because when I was growing up, we don't have anything like this. And I'm looking at it and I'm saying that my students here are eating much more healthier food than I am. So that is on its own a fantastic and wonderful achievement. I'm curious because the diversity within our district is roughly about 60%. And I know that, you guys have the option or the flexibility to move or shift your kitchen in different types of ways. I'm curious to see if there's any, thought behind the idea that maybe we could incorporate cultural food, so that our students get to experience the different type of diversity food or cultural food that we have exist here in Green Bay. I think that would be fantastic. And if you moving in that direction somewhere in the future, that if I still here, I will be more than happy to be involved. Thank you.
You're welcome, but I have some really good news. So we were Green Bay School District, Food Service Department, and with Wello. Are you familiar with Wello? Okay. We were contacted and asked if we would be interested in applying for a grant. And this grant would be Green Bay School District Food Service Department. We did receive this. Madison School District did receive it. And I just know about the two in Wisconsin. And we're part of this. And it's going to be bringing in chefs that we are going to be getting into our schools, into the food service department, and doing exactly what you're talking about. So we're very excited about that, to just even go down a whole nother avenue. I do belong to other committees outside of what just happens here in Green Bay or the School Nutrition Association, because you just want to see what's really going out there, what's happening. And one of them is when people look at food service, they don't look at food service as food service professionals. All of the food service staff, they need to have professional learning. They all have to have professional hours within every single school year. They all have to be ServSafe certified. And so I'm going to be a voice for the department. And why aren't we having individuals who are graduating from college want to come in those culinary and come into K through 12? Why isn't this not happening? And now we finally are making things happen with this grant that has just happened, and Green Bay is going to be part of that. So we're really excited about that. You're welcome.
You had some questions? Go ahead.
Hi. So with the changes and improvements that you've discussed, it seems like there's going to be like a higher influx of food, correct? Within your program, have you found the issue of food waste to be pressing in any ways?
Yes, food waste has always been a concern of ours. At our schools, we do have the sharing tables. And for the students who do not want the food, like they have to take all their components, but if they don't want to eat them, they go on a table. And any student can go up and take what is on there. What was just passed last school year, a student can even take food off that table if they bring a cold lunch. It's just not for the hot lunch students. So that is something that USDA did pass. In grades K through 1 or 4K through 1, that age group, because they fall within the group where we have to be very careful so they don't get sick and cross contamination, things like that, that USDA put a stipulation for those students. But sharing tables more of them are going to be implemented actually this school year. I did discuss this at one of our office personnel meetings that we just had. And we are now getting signatures from the principals that are saying, yes, I want this at my school.
Brian?
You had mentioned catering as options, and I know many, many years ago, you guys made great soup, and I'm still assuming you do. How does your catering program work?
With the catering that we do, they call our office, let us know what they want out there, and we will set up continental breakfast, lunches, and things like that. But I will tell you, it cannot take away from the students. And that is just one thing. We're not retail when it comes to, we're not going to sell our homemade soups, and it's going to take away.
It is amazing the number of students that you serve and the quality that you do. So seeing the lettuce and everything else like that, you picture that in smaller districts, but to be able to do it on the scale that you do is amazing. So.
Anyone have any other questions? All right.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just a quick question. To whom do you cater? I never heard of that.
To the schools, to this building.
ICS.
Mm-hmm, yeah, well. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't have my mic on, but for example, when ICSC has their quarterly meetings here at district office, we cater breakfast for the students.
Any other questions for Lynette? My observations, I don't have a question, just an observation, because I too participate. I've been through the walking tour of your facility, and then I got a chance to ride along for the parks delivery. Sounds like we went on the same route, same guys. And I'm a logistics, transportation, third party, 3PL kind of person. And what I saw was what I would consider operational excellence in action. The supply chain requirements to get from, raw product to finished product, and the end user is a phenomenal operation. And I saw no flaws in it. I saw only opportunity. I saw enthusiasm from your folks, your team, your leaders. I saw commitment, and I saw efficiencies. And it felt like there was always a question of how can we make this even better, even though it's going great. How can we make it better? So I'm very complimentary of you and your team, and it sounds like the rest of the board members are in agreement that this is a great example, shining example of operational excellence in action. So thank you and your team.
Thank you.
Okay. And with that, do you have anything else for the group?
I just want to say thank you and for the support of the food service program.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, next agenda item is the semi-annual budget transfers. There's no speaking part to this, only to refer you to the attachment, the budget. The district is required to have the board approve budget transfers if they are moving dollars between different functions, because it is different than what was officially approved in October. And we all know that there's things changed, or things were forecasted, or not necessarily not accounted for, but just the realities of the operations would necessitate the movement of dollars. So this is a standard practice, and I just again refer you to that spreadsheet if there are any questions. Okay, if there are no questions, we will then move to the third agenda item in operations, recommendation for revisions to the employee handbook language. Mike Freeze will join us at the table.
Good evening, everyone. Happy almost start to the school year. So back in 2022, 2023, there was a representative group called kind of a handbook committee or handbook work group that took a deep dive into a variety of bigger ticket handbook items that had kind of been in the background for a while. The board considered those recommendations in, I believe it was March and April of 2023, gave some feedback, and then the revisions with the board's feedback were then approved in April of 2023. So we then went to work updating the handbook and then publishing it last summer. So then we lived it, right? We lived it for the 2020, what year was it? 23, 24 school year, sorry. And made notes, right, along the way, like, oh yeah, that was worded funny, or what about this, right? So we had additional just input that came in, and then living it informed some, what we would call common sense updates and recommendations. So these are just kind of cleaning up some more minor things, or some common sense things, or archiving some things that aren't valid anymore that we bring forward for your consideration. To begin with, the policies and rules the board approved over the course of the past year. We are not asking you to reapprove having them updated in the handbook. We're just letting you know that the things that you worked with Melissa and that she worked with others on to bring to your attention, we'd like to make sure that we have that updated in the handbook accordingly for this year. So that one's pretty straightforward. We also recognize that there was an erroneous omission of something that the board has specifically voted on back in 2019, 2020, and we are going to put that back in because it was just left out. It was some old wording got lost, and so we're putting that back in. That was not discussed by the handbook committee to come out. It was just an inadvertent transposing situation. So the updates that we'd like to bring to your attention for tonight and for consideration this month would be, first of all, cleaning up the wording from the carryover of vacation language that had been a transition year of 22-23 to 23-24 into July 1 of 2024. We do not need that language as written anymore because of that was articulating the transition time period. And so I worked with Angie Robley and Melissa Thiel-Cower to make sure that the wording was clear and concise and accurate. So we have our recommended wording there that going forward, employees would carry over up to 10 days. We believe that this common sense update eliminates unnecessary language that was only needed for the previous year and clarifies the intent on having maximum carryover availability. There was a question last year, the handbook committee talked about having more of a unified employee handbook, not separated by employee groups. And so that merging generally made sense, but there were a couple spots where something that made sense for one employee group actually didn't make sense for some others. And so one of pertains to the topic of employee breaks. And so we just want to clarify that the break language actually pertains to the non-exempt employees rather than the administrative or exempt employees. Personnel records, the only change here is that the district actually doesn't charge individuals when they want to have a copy of the personnel record. We just want to remove that because we don't charge them. The longevity language is staying essentially the same, but when the board approved the clerical compensation structure, longevity was factored into individuals' placements in their actual specific step. So the reapplication annually of longevity was already factored in and is not necessary anymore. We want to make sure that people understand that sick leave for their escrow upon retirement is actually pertaining to their final fiscal year work, not a general fiscal year, which could be confusing. That was brought to our attention, so we thought that's easy to add. We also want to add in verbiage related to the use of personal leave and sick time as someone prepares to end their employment. It is district practice, always has been, that you don't end your employment on a benefit day. And so we just want to have that listed for personal and sick. Already vacation is listed, but all three are handled that way. There are occasional instances where an exception needs to be made, but it's a general rule of thumb. Your last day worked is your last day of actually showing up to work. It's just a general employment practice. We also have continued to follow the practice that used to exist in an administrative board rule that was incorporated into the handbook. And we want to just add this wording back in. Basically, if a member of the administration would like to return to the classroom, and we've typically honored that wherever possible. And so we just want to have that wording brought back in. It just was included in a previous rule that had been in the board policy and rules, but the rule doesn't exist anymore. And then finally, we just want to work for consistency in our use of pronouns. So whereas we have maybe 3 or 4 different ways of referring to individuals, we're going to stick with a more consistent they, their throughout the handbook. So our request would be that you approve the recommended wording changes, and then we would get that out to staff to start the school year. This also serves with some of our annual reminders for staff of the various rights and responsibilities as an employee of this fine organization. Thank you.
Andrew?
Yeah, just one thing, and it might be fairly deep in the weeds, and I'd be fine if this was just a follow-up for next time, unless there's a really quick, easy answer to it. Good standing, referring to an employee who is not currently under investigation. This is on the right side, recommended wording carryover vacation. I was just wondering if the possibility could exist that someone would be nearing their time of separation. Sometimes investigations take a while and turn out that the person was not in violation, but they could be under an investigation. So it's probably kind of a niche thing, but it could be an important thing if someone was in that, near the end of their employment. So I just wanted to point that out, but I know that's kind of deep in the weeds.
Sure, I'll double check with legal counsel on that. That wording actually exists in left and right column. We just brought it over, but we didn't look at that deeply, so we will. Thank you.
Brian?
I just wanted clarification. I think after I read it the second time, it made sense, but under, if a person in administrative leaves to return to a non-administrative certified position, under 2, it says the administrator would be placed on the certified staff salary schedule at a step recognizing their experiences. So they would still be on that staff schedule. We're not creating anything new with it, even though it says recognizing their experience as both a certified staff member and administrator within the Green Bay School District. I'm assuming that looking at the old fashioned way, that would be looking at steps would be recognized on it and there would be discussion with it, but it's not off schedule with it. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. So 5 years as a teacher, 3 years as an administrator, 8 total years of service when they go back to being a teacher, right?
Any other questions? Brian?
I'm going to assume I know the answer to this, but when you're looking at taking out for breaks with non-exempt staff, that doesn't impact the ability for our teachers to have a 30-minute duty-free lunch, correct?
That is correct. That doesn't have any impact on that at all.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I yield the floor back to James.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Rick. We'll continue with the agenda and we'll turn the role of chair over to Mr. Becker to facilitate the policy and governance agenda item discussions.
Okay, thank you. We have 5 items under policy and governance, several of which are some updates reflecting largely our existing practices, but needing to get them down in writing. So we'll start with some revisions to curricular dogs.
Hi there, I'm Melissa Thiel-Collar, the district's legal counsel, and I have Abby Tilkins, who's our student discrimination and Title IX coordinator with me tonight as well. She's going to speak to some of our policies. Abby is also an attorney, and so Abby, in her prior role with a law firm here in town, did a considerable amount of work on drafting policies and procedures. So she has been a real asset in helping our district as well in that area. Our first policy coming for revision tonight is 383.2 curricular dogs in the school setting. And we have one of the advocates for change here tonight, Ms. Kelly Rowe. Since the policy was passed last year by the board, we have allowed handlers to bring what we call curricular dogs or therapy dogs into our schools. And largely that restriction was as a result of the inability of our staff to get their own private insurance if they wanted to bring their personal dog to school in the capacity as an employee. There simply were not policies available. Since that time, some of the therapy dog organizations, the ones who certify the dogs and train the dogs, have now offered a policy that an employee can purchase on their own, and then they are covered in the capacity as an employee when they bring their therapy dog to school. And so that has then resulted in our ability to bring forward these changes to you tonight. The policy was drafted keeping in mind that not every position in the district is going to lend itself to have a therapy dog. And so we have that language in there. And really it's a collaboration between the employee making the request, the principal, and then if the employee is a student services staff person working here in the district with the supervisor of that employee in student services.
All right, Brian.
I just want to thank you for coming up with language on this and finding a solution to a pretty unique situation. I completely planted Fenton there. Yeah. And just the ability to utilize the skills that some of the therapy, I'm sorry, Lynn, the curriculum docs. I'm just kidding. Lynn and I were kidding around before of where that name came up, and I know it wasn't yours, Lynn. So she's not happy with me on that. But having the curriculum dogs in the building and the assets that they provide, I've seen it firsthand with Fenton of students' response, and the ability to just really help is amazing. So I'm glad that we were able to possibly come up with a solution for us.
I also do want to thank Kelly and her colleagues for all their work, because she and her colleagues put together a very sound proposal for Vicky and I to consider as we made these revisions, and that was a great starting point for us.
If I could, Kelly Rowe is one of our social workers at Preble High School.
Lynn.
I don't have a question. I just want to throw this out because it worries me, and you don't have to explain or anything like that. I just want to say that I have been both a classroom teacher and a therapy dog handler, and that my dog has been covered by insurance for up to $5 million per visit easily by the organization that certifies her, but covered only if she is on a leash that is no longer than 4 feet and the leash is always in my hand. And I have been a classroom teacher, not with little kids, high school students that sat in their desks the whole time. And I just still don't know how I could be a teacher and hold on to a dog on a 4-foot leash the whole time. Just throwing that out.
Absolutely. And that's why the policy as written indicates that you have to be able to perform your functions with that animal and within the requirements of that insurance policy. And as I said, not all positions are going to lend themselves to being the handlers in our schools.
Okay, anything else? All right, thank you. We'll move that forward. Then we have some Title IX policies. I believe mostly some updating of language reflecting things we already have done long before we were required to, but if you'd like to add some detail.
Yes, thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time in reviewing those Title IX policies. I'd like to just share a few high-level updates that we have in the 2024 regulations, which necessitated our review for the Board of Education for you guys to review those policies. So the 2024 regulations expanded the definition of sex and covered sex-based harassment. This change, though, is already consistent with our district policies. Our policies already used that expanded definition of sex since 2017, which is also consistent with our Seventh Circuit law. The 2024 Title IX regulations also removed the mandatory timelines within the complaint process. Previously, parties had to wait a total of 25 days as just a simple waiting period to review evidence. Now the timelines are a lot shorter, with a 5-day review period, which can be extended when appropriate, meaning that Title IX cases will be resolved quicker. This is a benefit for our students and our staff, meaning that there will be decisions faster and everyone can move forward in the schools. The 2024 Title IX regulations now allow the Title IX coordinator, me, to serve as the decision maker. This will again assist in efficiency in completing cases quicker and also alleviate some additional responsibilities from some individuals who already had a lot on their plates. There's also a slight change in the definition of determining when cases qualify for Title IX. In the past, the behavior must have been severe and pervasive. Now the definition says severe or pervasive. So this may lead to a small increase of cases qualifying as Title IX, However, as always, each case has to be taken individually and be reviewed whether or not it fits that standard. So these 2024 Title IX regulations began on August 1, 2024, and will cover any and all events that happen as of August 1, 2024, and moving forward. Our next steps are to continue our all-staff training, finalizing these policies and rules. This will also include a training session for the Board of Education later on this school year too.
All right, questions? I just have one observation, and this, I talked to, Melissa about this a bit. There's certain things about it can be severe or pervasive and go through Title IX, as opposed to before it had to be both to go through Title IX. But in the end, Title IX or not Title IX, bullying, harassment, hate is not tolerated. There might be different things on certain paperwork or referrals, but regardless, we're not tolerating it for any reason. And this makes sure we're doing it with the federal guidelines correctly.
Yes, exactly. So when we're saying whether or not something qualifies for Title IX, if it doesn't meet that test, then I always advise administrators to look at whether or not it falls under one of our other policies, such as bullying, general harassment, all those types of things. So even if something doesn't qualify for Title IX, it'll be addressed in a different avenue. And then if it does, it'll be in the Title IX venue.
Anything else? And Laura, did you have anything on these?
No, I'm all set. Good job,
Okay.
guys.
I just want to make sure I didn't miss you'll just use the hand button, or if you have something.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, thank you for that. And then we have several items under 300 to 400 policies for pupil services, special education, and multilingual learners.
We're back again with our 300 and 400 series. We're chugging through and we're gonna get these done. So the next two groups tonight, the first one is our pupil services, special education, and multilingual learner policies that our staff, and I want to thank Jackie Hauser, Julie Seafeld, Katie Selzer, Christina Jingle, because they are swamped with getting ready for the school year and they were able to get these policies revised. So thank you to them. Really, it's largely updating current policies to be reflective of our practices, bringing in line with the correct language we're using, away from English language learners, for example, to multilingual learners, and other processes and procedures, updating job titles who are responsible for various roles in the district as well. If anyone has any questions on those, we can go through them individually, or that's the general overview.
Board member questions? Okay, I guess there's no questions, so we'll move forward. Item D, adoption of board work session and independent education evaluation. But am I on D or did I overclick? Yep, independent education evaluation, that's D. Yes.
That one is a new policy. In special education, a parent has the right to request an independent education evaluation if they disagree with the evaluation that a district has done. We haven't had a board policy on this. We've been doing them. And as I shared with James and Andrew prior to this meeting, our staff has frequently requested to be that independent evaluator because we have such specialized, talented, and well-trained staff that other districts want to use them for that independent evaluator. Where we have been requested to give a family an independent education evaluation here in the district, we followed the federal and state law regarding that. We just haven't put it in a policy that we could give a family and say, here's the process. So that's the purpose of adopting this policy.
Okay, any questions on that? We'll move that forward, thank you. And then we have revisions, 300, 400 relating to teaching and learning.
Thank you. The two policies that were and rules that we're bringing forward tonight, again, thank you to Eric Kahn, who did the majority of the work on this. He oversees these programs. Technical college course program, which is Start College Now, and early college credit program are those programs that the state has created that allow our students to take either college credit at a four-year college or at a technical college. These are just tweaks to those policies as we've implemented those programs and minor changes in the law that have come about during the course of those programs.
All right, any board member questions or comments? Lynn?
I just want to say to your staff, gosh, this is so much work. And I want them to know, even though I'm not asking questions, I read every one of those red lines and thank you for the work.
All right, if there's nothing else, that concludes policy and governance. I'll return the chair back to James for the conclusion.
I appreciate that, Andrew. Thanks to the district staff for all the contributions to the meeting this evening. If there are no other discussions, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
You have been watching the Green Bay Area Public School District's Board of Education meeting. Please visit the school district's website, www.gbaps.org, for more information on the district and future meeting dates. If you cannot fully access the information on this video, please let us know the accessibility issue you are having by calling 920-448-2025 or by email at communications@gbaps.org. We will try to provide the information to you in an alternative format and/or make the necessary improvements to make the information accessible.